Welcome to the Purple Political Breakdown. How's it going? How's your day been? And we're back with another episode number 100, where our motto here is political solutions without political bias. Welcome back to the podcast episode. If you guys don't know, you can listen to my podcast on the audio platforms every 8 a.m. EST for Mondays and Thursdays. And if you want to see the full video version, you can see me on the Roku app, on podnation.tv, so you can see the full video package. Now, today we're going to be doing a lot more updating of information. I want to talk about things that have been going on recently. Next week, we'll start talking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump and the different categories of what I've seen. I have dropped an episode already in terms of economy, I believe, and another, I think, in terms of foreign policies. I'm unsure, but I believe I dropped that as well that you can listen to. But let's dive right into it. First things first, I want to dive into something that was pretty interesting. A congressman, I'm grabbing my phone. A congressman apparently was indicted, him and his wife. Let me get the information for you. So a congressman, U.S. Rep. Henry Kohler, a Democrat, and his wife have been indicted on federal bribery and conspiracy charges in connection with benefiting an oil and gas company owned by the government of Azerbaijan and a bank in Mexico. The indictment was returned by a grand jury Tuesday and unsealed by the Department of Justice Friday. The 68-year-old Kohler and his wife Imelda are accused of accepting nearly $600,000 between December 2014 and at least November 2021. There was a bug on my arm. Ew. See, I'm human too. Who wants bugs on their arms? I don't know how a bug got in my house. Not gonna lie. Let's continue. The payments were allegedly laundering through front companies and intermediaries before ending up in a shell companies owned by Imelda, the DOJ said. In exchange for the money, Kohler allegedly agreed to influence U.S. foreign policy in favor of Azerbaijan and influence legislative activity in favor of the bank in Mexico, among other promises. This is very insane to me, and I guess you can't be too surprised. What's going to be pretty annoying, of course, is because he's a Democrat, and even if he was a Republican, the other side was going to crucify the entirety of that party. Hey, see, they got corrupt guys on their side. It's lazy and it's idiotic. But one thing we can say is that the people who do these things deserve the harshest of punishments. You are in a position of power, a position of leadership. Your influence and the change you can make, in particular to the entirety of this country, is unimaginable. And the fact that we have anybody that is willing to be corrupted by money is pitiful. They deserve the harshest of punishment. Hey, man, I'm not going to lie. That's borderline treason. I mean, how is it not treason to basically sell out your country for the interests of others for money? That's basically treason to me. So I don't feel bad at all for these people. And I probably, some people are going to get mad, but the death penalty should not be off the table. Treason against your own country is a terrible offense, in my opinion. But let's move forward. Let's go into some other interesting news. Researchers discovered mechanism in fetal mice that heals damaged cartilage cells. Discovered may lead to new treatments for joint and bone damage in humans. At the very least, we can say that there are interesting things that are taking place in terms of the science industry that may be good overall. I mean, this wasn't the only thing that was interesting in terms of the science industry. Apparently, there was an orangutan that did something phenomenal. Here it is. A wild male orangutan in Indonesia was observed applying a medical paste to a scrape on his face, according to new research. It's the first documented example of an animal self-medicating a wound using a plant with healing properties. Absolutely insane, ladies and gentlemen, that we are reaching this point in our time. These animals will continue to get more and more intelligent, and hey, maybe they will take it over and it will be a Planet of the Apes type style. But overall, that was very interesting to see from an orangutan as they start using tools, just like how humanity started out using tools to grow their population and grow their power and their influence. I mean, it's bound to happen, I'm sure. Now, I want to kind of go down this rabbit hole of scientists a little bit. Apparently, there was actually done a survey survey of trust in scientists. There is multiple categories of how much people trust in particular scientists depending on their field. There's the competence, which is how clever and intelligent they consider scientists; assertiveness, on how confident and assertive they are; morality, just and fairness; and warmth, friendly and caringness. And here are the results. Let me read this off. Now, I'm not going to read off the entire result. You can find the results if you look it up in terms of the poll of scientists, the survey of trust in scientists. That's what you can look up so you can see the full survey. But in terms of competency, the number one ranked most competent scientists were rocket scientists, which is interesting. I mean, of course, we have a lot of faith in terms of our rockets, of even though NASA is technically not here anymore, but in terms of what we've done with rockets and missiles, of course. I mean, another thing that was highly rated were nuclear physicists, astrophysicists. So when it comes to this type of technology, people trust them a lot, which is super interesting. Also leading in assertiveness is also rocket scientists. In a close second and third were nuclear physicists and neuroscientists. In terms of morality, which is definitely subjective, but also gives a certain idea of the value of these scientists if they're doing good for society. The number one ranked person were, again, a result that's not too surprising. Number one ranked was zoologists. In a close second, third were marine biologists and oceanographers. So people who deal with animals are deemed more morally just compared to people who aren't. Political scientists were pretty ranked pretty low, I believe. Yeah, political scientists are ranked 4.3. Like they are on the outright bottom of this morality poll, which was not surprising. People are losing so much faith in terms of politics where they deem anybody associated with it as just less good. I mean, that's the best way I can put it based on how this poll is kind of mapping out. Next is warmth. I guess they're carrying nature. Zoologists, again, the highest ranked one, not surprising. And the final one I'm going to read off is trust. How much do these people trust in these individuals? How much trust do they warrant from the public? Number one is, I believe, marine biologists and astrophysicists, meaning that they believe that these people are really trying to do, or at the very least, they trust they're doing their job correctly and maybe even in the betterment of society. But dead last, like it's a gap between last and second to last, is again political scientists. This was the most interesting one of the whole thing because people really do not trust, have faith in political scientists and what they bring to the table in terms of the stuff they study and the information that they kind of portray to the audience. I just wanted to kind of bring that about, but it's not surprising because I've looked up in terms of the reliability or the faith in terms of our institutions, of our politics. And again, these are all, I wouldn't be surprised, like at an all-time low, especially for this modern era. Well, let's dive into some other things. The federal court rules North Carolina and West Virginia state healthcare plans are discriminatory for excluding certain care for transgender people. Case likely headed to the Supreme Court. Specifically, North Carolina's policy bars treatment or studies leading to or in connection with sex changes or modifications and related care, while West Virginia's bar coverages of transsexual surgery. I don't know how this is going to play out. Every time something like this is going to happen, I guarantee that this is something that's going to be moved to higher courts. I mean, this is not the only thing that has a lot of people locally in an outrage, especially the left, because there is a lot of outrage in terms of a policy in reference to abortion that happened in Florida as well. There's an abortion ban. Florida's 6-week abortion ban took effect Wednesday after being signed into law a year ago, while abortion advocates are submitting about 60,000 signatures to put access on the ballot in November. DeSantis signed the law in April, banning abortion after gestational age of a fetus is determined to be more than 6 weeks, including exceptions for pregnancies as a result of rape, incest, or human trafficking. This is it's interesting. I never understand why they're, I mean, I get it. If you truly believe that abortion is killing of a baby, then there's really no exception to the cause of the creation of the baby. Like, I understand the logic behind that in particular. It's very tough at the end of the day, but at the very least, they have a cutoff. But this is tough because Debbie Dalen, president of women's rights advocacy organization Florida Now, called the 6-week ban a near total ban in an interview, explaining that most women do not know they are pregnant within 6 weeks. Florida also requires 2 appointments with a medical professional before an abortion can be performed. Dalen said it is difficult to get one appointment, let alone 2, within such a brief window. Now, of course, I take these words with a grain of salt, but one thing I do want to point out is that when it comes down to having sex in particular, I think there is legitimate arguments that can be made that an individual, after they have sex, should always take a pregnancy test. Make it a habit. Because ultimately, even though we fooled ourselves into thinking this, and for me, I indulge quite a bit, sex is not sex, the creation of sex is not a tool of pleasure. The creation of sex is a tool of procreation. The reason why it exists is for us to procreate, to have babies, to have the population that is humanity proliferate. That is why it exists. So ultimately, it makes sense that every time you have sex, there is going to be a chance every single time that a baby will be created. And I think that is the habit that we all should adopt, knowing that there's a chance every single time we do it, you get pregnant, take a pregnancy test. So, my question to the pro-abortion, pro-choice type people is: if every woman takes a pregnancy test after they have sex, then is it really impossible to figure out whether or not you're pregnant? That is something I would put on the table. Ultimately, for me, I always said after the first trimester, I would make it okay until the first trimester for me personally, but we'll see how this kind of plays out. Now, there is another thing that took place. Arizona lawmakers on Wednesday voted to repeal a Civil War era law that banned nearly all abortions after a pair of Republican senators joined with all Democrats. Now, again, I mean, in this situation, it's a little bit more positive news as they're looking to overrule or repeal this law. With you as individuals, whether or not you agree with the aspect of abortion, pro choice, pro life, whether you agree with transsexual surgeries or not, whether you agree with gender affirming care or not, one thing that is very clear to me as an individual is that now that these things are brought at the state level, you can make a more immediate impact in terms of what is going on. People fool themselves in thinking that your voice is relevant at the federal level. Well, it's not. But at the local level, it is. Your voice is stronger than ever at the local level. Our country is not one entity, it's a collaboration of many. I think at the end of the day, if you want things to change, that you believe in a better way for the country, ultimately you have to get involved in your local politics. You have to be out there and make a change on your own. And the reason why I think this is a good thing overall is not necessarily because I believe in any of your causes, but because it allows the opportunity for you to get involved with the system that you criticize. It allows you the opportunity to discuss your views with others that may challenge it. It opens up your perspective. It allows you to be less ignorant. And maybe after a lot of deliberation, a solution can be made. So that's why I'm a fan of this state level, of it being at the state level compared to the federal level. Because so many ignorant people have ideas, deaf ideas, make their voices heard on social media and think it will change the country. But it never was like that. It never should be like that. It always should be bottom to top. That's what it should be. There's more things that I want to go over, of course. There's there's a gay clergy ban that was reversed. The legislative body of the United Methodist Church voted to repeal a 40-year ban on the ordination of gay clergies yesterday or a couple days ago, one of 7 rule changes around sexuality adopted in their general conference. So if anybody cares about that, that's a huge change in terms of LGBTQ rights. A TV producer, Dan Schneider, I know people know that name, filed a defamation lawsuit against Quiet on Set, the Cuisier's producers, for implying he sexually abused children on the set of various children's TV shows. The fact that he filed a defamation lawsuit will be interesting because now we can finally get to the details. Is Dan Schneider guilty? Or is he not? Of course, people, regardless of the ruling, are going to say, well, it's just corrupt. I don't really care about their opinions, but I'm curious on what the evidence will propose in this defamation lawsuit. Or will it not go to trial? I'm curious to see. Another thing that took place is the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration reportedly set to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 drug, easing federal restrictions on the substance. If you don't know what the different levels are, Schedule 1 drugs are drugs with no current medical use with high potential for abuse and or addiction. The fact that marijuana was ever a Schedule 1 drug was lunacy. Schedule 3 is drugs with low to moderate potential for abuse and or addiction, but less dangerous than Schedule 1 or 2. These drugs can be obtained through prescription, but generally not available over the counter. Now, this is becoming not true. A lot of states are making it legal overall, my state included, but it never should have been a Schedule 1 drug ever. Honestly, it should be a Schedule 5 drug, drugs with low potential for abuse. That's what it should be. But we shall see. Schedule 4 to Schedule viable medical use is also actually probably good as well because it does have a lot of medical purposes. But that's a good thing. At least we're moving in the right place when it comes to marijuana and its usage across the country. And the last thing I want to go about is the newspapers who plan to sue OpenAI. So the lawsuit is being filed on behalf on some of the most prominent regional daily newspapers in the Alden portfolio: the New York Daily News, Chicago Tribune, Orlando Sentinel, South Florida Sun Sentinel, San Jose Mercury News, Denver Post, Oregon Orange County Register, and South St. Paul Pioneer Press. The newspaper is being represented by Rothel, a couple other people, and they're filing this claim. Let me see. The newspapers accuse OpenAI and Microsoft of purloining millions of the publisher's copyrighted articles without permission and without payment to fuel the commercialization of their 2 main generative artificial intelligence products, OpenAI's ChatGPT and Microsoft's Copilot. The newspapers also claim OpenAI and Microsoft remove copyright management information like journals' names and titles from their work when the information they reported was cited in answers to queries. This lawsuit has also included diluted trademark claims, which allege that OpenAI and Microsoft engage in the unauthorized use of the newspaper's trademarks and branding the answers from ChatGPT and Copilot. The newspapers also accused the 2 AI giants of reputational damage pertaining to generative AI's hallucination or made-up answers to users' queries. They cite an example where, in response to a specific query, ChatGPT fabricated, as the Denver Post published, research and medical observations that smoke can be a cure for asthma. So ultimately, a lot of these newspaper companies are not happy with these AIs, and this is going to be a continued debate in terms of the use of AI on the grand scale, and I do think it's deserved. We have to make sure we understand what AI is, and it's not only providing the right information, but also that it's not taking away from the human element of a lot of these things, whether it's music or whether it's just gathering and interpreting information. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm going to keep my eye on a lot of stuff in regards to AI and see where we go from there. I do think the AI is the future, but there are certain things that we need to put in place to make sure that AI doesn't take a step over the line. But let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Of course, tune in next Monday, 8 a.m. EST, next Thursday, 8 a.m. EST. Appreciate you. Rate it 5 stars if you enjoyed. Y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.